Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is our little beers in the back discussion, only none of us have a beer today, and we're not in the back. We're all coming to you virtually. Dave's out, and maybe he'll chastise us for not being in the back and not having a beer, but you know what? He'll get over it.
We're working too hard, Scott. We don't have time to drink yet.
That's right. That's right. So the reason for our call, as we have done in the past, is that today was a pretty big report. This is normally at the end of June, we get a double whammy from USDA. We get the June 1 quarterly stocks in all positions, and perhaps a bigger piece of that report then is that we get June acreage updates from the USDA. And again, that's for corn and soybeans and wheat, the big three that we watch ever so closely. And so we just had that report released here just a little over an hour ago. And you may have seen something already in your inbox with a little bit of a flash update on the actual numbers from us. I believe Bill has already sent out a quick little summary of his own. And here we are on the call here to kick things around a little bit. Bill, you want to kick us off? What's your early thoughts on things?
Yes. Well, good afternoon and thank you. The thing I focused on was that we did have larger than expected stocks by at least a small amount, and that'll add to the 23 carryout, 23, 24 carryout and carry into next year. And then we had bigger, larger acreage. So in March, the shock and awe was that the total universe of acreage had shrunk significantly, I think 6 million acres. So there was some expectation that we ought to get some back, even with some delays in planting over the last 60 days. And we did. We got 91.5 million. So before you start accounting for any flood impact in that, I think the USDA may feel compelled in their July 12th WASDE, and that's the first time they'll publish something that has ending stocks estimates in it. On July 12th, they will raise that ending stocks from 2.1 billion to probably close to 2.3 billion bushels. And that's a pretty big matzo ball there. And that'll give us a rationale for why July corn is now trading under $4.
How about that?
But we've been saying for a while, right, that the corn seemed like, based on what stocks were, it was maybe a little bit high, right?
The price?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've kind of had that target in our mind, and I don't know, funds play a role in this, and it seems like fundamentals are driving it today, but we had some pretty impactful flooding in the area around Sioux City, plus or minus 100 miles any direction. And all the market's done since then is go down. So it still feels very bearish from the corn.
But even based on that, I mean, the math that you did, I think over the weekend or whenever it was, or earlier this week, on bushels lost, corn and soybeans because of the flood, when you take into account this additional corn acres, it kind of negates any of the production we lost, doesn't it?
Yeah, 1.5 million acres is at that kind of yield is going to be 300 million bushels plus or minus, and that may be something pretty close to what we lost. We'll never know. So exactly what we lost, and we may get a survey from the USDA later this summer, but in August or September. But it pretty much is an offset to get that. So you're correct, and nobody knew that we were going to be at 91.5 million, and the trade guess wasn't that high. So second guessing that we should have known that, I don't know. But that was the biggest thing, that the soybeans were kind of neutral story, both on the stocks and the acreage was a little bit light. We probably, in my estimate, lost 15 to 20 million bushels based on a slightly smaller acreage. And it gets the universe of acreage back to something that we can all feel good about, I guess.
Yeah, you gained just under 2 million acres across all of your grains and cotton
And
is what it ended up.
what was that? 1.4, 1.5 of that came just from corn.
Right, right.
Yes.
So we had
And that,
pluses or minuses amongst the others. Would you say that you said, Bill, that I mean, obviously that corn acres was a surprise. Would you say that's the biggest surprise, or was the fact that we lost 400,000 some acres of beans? What's the bigger surprise there?
Oh, I think the bigger is the corn acreage that
Yeah.
we gained that much. We were 94.6 million a year ago, and that was kind of off the charts big. And the 91.5 comes as, yeah, a much bigger shock than soybeans being down 400,000 or a small change in winter and spring wheat acreage.
Yeah. Honestly, speaking of wheat, the price action, we should probably mention, corn is certainly bearish down right now as we're speaking with another hour to go in trade. We're down in the mid teens, somewhere between 13 and 17 cents. As Bill mentioned, the July, the front month is now printing with a 3 left of the decimal. Beans are kind of have, been here and there, but right now kind of hanging on to a little bit of a positive trade, up somewhere between unchanged and maybe 3 cents higher. Um, and then when you look at the oil is up about 20 points, meal is down a buck or two. The one that is a little questioning to me is why we have all three wheat markets trading lower. We're doing a heck of a lot before the market or the release of the report. Now we're down in Chicago, Kansas City, and Minneapolis, and that's in the face of a little bit of an uptick in stocks, and actually less acres. So I'm a little surprised at that. I think it probably is taking some of its cues from corn. Is the best thing I got for you. Um,
hey, we saw a nice uptick in Durham acres, though, Scott.
we did, and we certainly need them. But at the end of the day, what's that? 5 or 6% higher, which is good. I mean, we certainly aren't gonna turn our nose up at that. And for those that follow us every week, we've been having really pretty good conditions on wheat. The winter wheat now well into harvest. We're 40% harvested as of last week. The Durham and spring wheat is off to a fantastic start, in the 70s for good to excellent. So, extra acres on the Durham crop is a good thing. Durham was one of the tightest classes last year and the last couple of years. So we need all the help we can get there. I'm still struggling to know or to figure why um, we've got our price action down so much today.
So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think when the report came out, there was a bit of a delay. 11 o'clock Central, and Scott and I are sitting there on the phone watching our screen, and the markets are moving a little bit, but there was a bit of a delay from USDA in getting the numbers, and so we were trying to figure out, well, what is this going to say? And I think we ended up getting the numbers, and aside from that bit of an uptick in corn acres, it really wasn't as shocking as maybe as what some of the ones in the past have been. I mean, this is what, Bill, one of the top 2 or 3 as far as market volatility when it comes to
Yes.
reports. So
Yes, this is may not be the most impactful all the time, but it is one that people watch closely. And I'll just say this, that the numbers are important, but we're also often it's on a Friday like it is today, and we're going into the pollination period, and we're just ahead of the 4th of July weekend. So this is it. it's more volatile in part because of the numbers that are released. It's also the time of the year that can amplify those that volatility.
And I think you make a good point, Bill. Um, where do we go next? What do we focus on next? The market's going to very quickly be looking now at corn pollination and finishing up our winter wheat harvest and how the rest of those spring crops roll through the summer. Soybeans probably a little more important in August, the weather in August, but in the next couple of weeks, there's going to be corn beginning to pollinate, and that's always, we think, one of the most critical parts of the growing season for corn.
Well, and I think when you look back last winter, and I know, Scott, you and I were kind of having fun with it, all the meteorologists that were throwing out these doom and gloom, forecasts of, oh my God, we're going to have La Nina. It's going to be the driest summer on record. And it's, and here we sit now, it's almost the first of July. In the upper Midwest, we went from drought conditions over the winter, and we didn't have hardly any snow. And we were kind of concerned about what is the moisture going to look like, to today. I mean, the moisture is, we got flooding up here in Minnesota. Iowa has flooding, plenty of moisture, even in Nebraska where you're at. So as we're turning the page now into this pollination period in July, I know some folks are trying to draw analogies to prior years where we've had wet Junes. And then once we get to July, the moisture kind of stops, right? And so I think you're right. As we get into this, how are we setting ourselves up for the back half of this growing season? And are we going to see this wet pattern continue? I think Dave Mack and I were just talking, and I think when you look at the forecast here for the next week or 10 days, it doesn't appear to be much of a change. It still looks damp. So I don't think we're going to have to worry about, dry conditions. But it's amazing how much the meteorologists will lay the forecasts out. And then we get there and it's like, well, that wasn't what we thought it was going to be, because it's a hell of a lot wetter than what they were forecasting earlier this year.
Should have been a weather guy.
Well, a weather
been,
guy,
should have been
economist. Either way, it's like,
hey. I'm right here.
I think you're right, Scott. I think as we get into the back half of this growing season, it's going to be all about, like it is every year, it's just weather, pollination, and how does this crop finish out. But
and the other quick thing too is, remember, we've been talking about this kind of bullish cycle for the last really couple of years. You could say 3 years now. We've had pretty bullish and tight stocks, and we've been singing the same tune that Bill has been for a while now. If Mother Nature is kind, and so far she's been very fine, all three of the major grain crops here in the United States are going to be growing, and those ending stocks are going to be growing. And it's, we're kind of in that bearish cycle now, it would seem.
yeah. So now what? So now we have, we sit here and then we get our next quarterly stocks report, comes out in, what is it?
Late September.
Yep. September.
September. It actually is September 30th this year.
Yep.
So the last day of September, that'll be a Monday, and we will get our SEP1 quarterly stocks. We will get our small grains summary, which is will be the final production estimates for wheat. What else am I missing, Bill?
Well, that's the big thing.
Yeah,
we'll get. You could have a potential adjustment to the soybean crop, but I don't think there will be one of any consequence this year. And they may take a flail at the corn crop too, but the biggest thing is watching the weather the next 60 days. And we're, if you said, okay, well, 20% of the risk in the crop comes in when you're planting it in May in that early development, and I'd give it maybe a B- for early development. I don't know, that might be even harsh to say. There have been some areas that haven't been perfect, but we're going into the July period with our soil moisture just sensational, beyond probably too much in too many parts of the area. So we've taken out of the running some really bad years, I think, by virtue of how the crop has started and where we are today on soil moisture.
Yep.
Thus, we are below $4 in July corn.
And we only have 21 cents to go for new crop to be there. So we have determined a path currently. We'll
That's
have to
right.
see if it can continue. Well, I think we probably beat this horse to death, I think. Thanks for listening. Please let any of us know if you have any questions. Bill, the same. Bill, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Always a pleasure.
How's it go, Nate? I have to finish up with what Dave says all the time.
What does he always say? Be careful out there.
Be careful out there in these crazy commodity markets. Be careful out there.
That's right. All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.